If you want to be a voice actor, but you have dyslexia, you actually have a superpower. It's true.
News from the booth!
Hey villagers, welcome back to the VoiceOver Village. I'm Rick McIver, your village idiot and neurodivergent entrepreneur. It took me a lot longer to spell that than it did to say that. Today's video was inspired from a viewer comment. Someone who, I'm not actually going to disclose who they are because it was a private message, but thank you very much for the message because it actually hits home. And the message was this. They're someone who wanted to be a voice actor but was struggling with cold reads, and they had recently been diagnosed as dyslexic. And they were wondering what they could do to overcome that to be a better voice actor. That's right up my alley. So I was diagnosed with dyslexia back in junior high. It's when they called it junior high. That's how old I am. Now they call it middle school. I don't know why they changed it from junior high to middle school, but they did. Maybe it's because it's sexist or something, because junior implies male. Sorry. What was the point again? Oh, right. Dyslexia. And I just stopped reading in junior high school. My parents said that's not okay. And so that's about the time I got diagnosed with dyslexia. And I had a specialist, a therapist, help me with some strategies to overcome this problem. And I can hear you, right? Why in the heck would you choose a profession where you actually have to read stuff for a living? Fair point. It was because of my dyslexia and the things that I had to do to overcome it that I'm actually a voice actor. And I'll get to that specifically in a second. But first, let me say this. If you do have dyslexia, you can absolutely be a voice actor. So don't let that stop you. I'm going to give you 4 things that I do that make my life easier when I'm working. Number 1, change your font. Normally, when I get an audition, it's in the form of an email, and I can easily copy and paste the text into Word or some other program that I can use, and then update the font to this very specific font for dyslexic people, and that's called Open Dyslexic. It works for me. I'm on a Mac. I don't know if it works on Windows, but I think it does. And this is what it looks like. It really weighs down the bottom of the letters, which helps it from flipping around a little bit. You know, you mix around your D's and your B's and some other letters and some words that actually get transposed. It's a lot easier when the font is weighted at the bottom for some reason. It works for me. So try that. The font is called Open Dyslexic, and it works really well for me, so give it a shot. Number 2 is mark up your script. Especially when you're just getting started in voiceover, you're going to want to print your copy because you're going to want to mark it up. If you're struggling with dyslexia, this helps a whole lot. When I started, I printed every script that came in. Let me show you how I mark mine. So I'm very well lit at the moment because I have a piece of paper on my desk and a light shining on it so that we can kind of go through this together. This is an old script that I had from when I was doing some coaching a couple of years ago, and so I'm going to kind of show you how I mark my scripts up. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to mark where my breaths are. And so that kind of looks like this. I find the phrases that make the most sense. And this says just makes sense. And this is where I'm going to put my first mark. And I use what I call double railroad tracks. That's going to be where I breathe right there. Just makes sense. Vehicles destined for American drivers and roads should be shaped by the people who know them best. Okay, so there's a couple things here. I've done that, and so here's my next breath. So I make a double or a big slash there. The next thing that I do is I put my phrases together, right? So I look for and phrases or words that are clommed together. This first sentence has an and phrase in it. Drivers and roads, right? For American drivers and roads. And so it's American drivers and roads, not just drivers and roads. So I'm going to put a little parentheses actually right here and right here. And that helps me to think about, all right, so this is the phrase that goes together. So when I'm reading, it clicks in my brain. Oh, drivers and roads. Okay, American drivers and roads. Should be shaped by the people who know them best. Breathe. That's why so much of what rolls off our assembly lines here is imagined here. Okay, here's a good place for a breath. Mark that right there. We have world-class design, research, and development facilities. So even though you have a comma here, can throw you off. Even though you have a comma here, you don't actually want to pause because the thought is these 3 things together. We have world-class design, research, and development facilities throughout the U.S., right? So that actually phrase, that kind of goes together. This is a good place to breathe. And you could say design, research, and development facilities, because those three things go together. You can put it here. You could put it in front of the world class, but I'm going to put it here. Design, research, and development facilities right there. All right. You with me so far? Good. Now you're like, why are all these lines actually making things more confusing? Sometimes I get problems when I'm reading up and down and I don't know what line I'm on. Simple fix for that. All you need to do is every other line, make a mark in the margin to the left. It looks like this. And just make a little mark here, 1, 2. Make a little mark here, 1, 2. Make a little mark here. That helps me a lot because I stumbled a lot when I would go from the end of a line back to the front of the line. So this helps me know where I am. It just makes sense. Vehicles destined for American drivers and roads should be shaped by the people who know them best. That's why so much of what rolls off our assembly lines here is imagined here. We have world-class design, research, and development facilities throughout the U.S., from Texas to Michigan. So that's also a phrase. From Texas to Michigan is one, and then here's another one, Arizona to California. The point here that I'm trying to make is that you need to alter your copy in a way that makes sense for you. This makes sense for me. Find something that works for you. For me, I need to know where to breathe. I need to know where the phrases are. I also need to know what line I'm on. So just having a little mark like that helps me when I go back to the front of the page or front of the sentence to the left margin. So there you go. That's how I mark my scripts. Let's go to number 3. Number 3, use your body. I know this can feel a little weird because you're by yourself and you're either in your booth or in your closet or with a blanket over you and you're like, how am I supposed to use my body? I'm just reading words. I did a video a little while back where I compared a bunch of different $100 microphones. And if you watch that video, you'll see me in the booth doing some voiceover and you'll see I have my hand up here. It's hard to keep that in frame, but I keep my hand up here when I'm reading the line and I actually physically move my hand forward as I'm reading the line. That does two things for me. One, it keeps me from sing-songing the line, right? When you read something and it goes up and then it goes down, and then it goes up and then it goes down when you read. You don't want that. That's never good in voiceover. So this helps me to remember it. But it also does something else. It helps me get out of my head, right? It helps me to stay physical, in the moment, present, and deliver the copy in a way where I'm not thinking too much. The problem with thinking too much, especially with dyslexia, is you're reading along and then your little inner monologue kicks in and then your words start to mix around, and it works really well for me. It helps keep me in the moment, and that slowing down, that physicality slows me down so that I don't stumble as much. Number 4 is actually the most important one, and it has to do with reading out loud. When I stopped reading in junior high, I wouldn't open a textbook. I wouldn't open any books that were assigned to me. I just blew off all the assignments. My therapist said to me, I want you to read out loud. Every assignment that you have, every text that you're given, every worksheet that you have, read it out loud. Not just books, anything that's printed. Read it out loud. I felt really silly because I'm sitting at my desk or at the kitchen table or wherever, and I'm reading out loud to no one. It felt weird, but doing this kind of training, doing this kind of exercise over and over and over again is the training that you need to be a voice actor. So you're doing two things. You're having a strategy to overcome your dyslexia, and you're training yourself to actually be a voice actor, which is why having dyslexia is actually a superpower when it comes to voice acting. I eventually started to read faster and faster because I had to reread less. And it also trained me to kind of read ahead a little bit. And that's a big strategy, especially with big, long scripts, is that you have to be able to kind of subconsciously read ahead, and the words that are coming out of your mouth are just lagging behind where you are on the page. And the only way to get that wiring in your head, the only way to train yourself to do that is by reading aloud. I hope this has been helpful, and I really want to thank my viewer for that question because it was inspiring today. So thank you very much for that. Thanks for watching. I hope it's been helpful. Until next time.